Chapter 22. Sexual Yoga. 3 types of Tantrism exist in India. First, White Tantrism. Second, Black Tantrism. And third, Grey Tantrism. In White Tantrism, sexual magic is practiced without the spilling of semen. In Black Tantrism, there is spilling of semen. In Grey Tantrism, one does and does not spill the semen. Sometimes they spill it, sometimes they do not spill it. This type of Tantrism leads the devotee to Black Tantrism. Within Black Tantrism, we find the Ban and Drukpa of the Red Hats, terrible and perverse black magicians. These malignant people have disgusting procedures in order to reabsorb the semen through the urethra after having miserably spilled it. The outcome is fatal because the semen, after having been spilled, is charged with satanic atoms which, upon re-entering the body, acquire the power to awaken the Kundalini negatively. It then descends to man's atomic infernos and becomes Satan's tail. This is how the human being forever separates himself from his divine being, and sinks evermore into the abyss. Everyone who spills the cup of Hermes is properly recognized as a black magician. In India, sexual magic is known by the word Maithuna. It is also known as Urdhvarita Yoga, and those who practice it are called Urdhvarita Yogis. In all truly serious and responsible yoga schools, sexual magic is practiced in an extremely secret manner. When a yogi couple, man and woman, have been well prepared, they are taken to a secret place where they are instructed about the Maithuna, sexual magic. Couples unite sexually to work in the great work under the supervision of a guru, master. The man, seated upon a rug on the floor in Buddhic posture, with his legs crossed oriental style, enters into sexual contact with the woman. She sits on the man's legs in such a way that her legs envelope the man's trunk. It is clear that by sitting upon him, she absorbs the phallus. Thus, the man and woman are sexually connected. Yogi couples remain in this state for hours without spilling the semen. It is the obligation of the yogi to not think during the practice of sexual magic. In those moments, both man and woman are in a state of ecstasy. The couple is thus deeply in love. The creative energies rise victoriously through their respective channels to the chalice of the brain. Animal desire is rejected. Then the couple withdraws from the act without having spilled the semen. The way sexual magic is practiced in the Oriental style may be very uncomfortable for Westerners. Nevertheless, it is recommended for those people who cannot manage to refrain from spilling the cup of Hermes. Gnostics can sexually train themselves with this practice in order to learn how to refrain and avoid the spilling of semen. Gnostic couples do not need the physical supervision of a master. However, they could invoke the masters of the astral to help them. The couple must be alone. It is necessary that animal desire does not prevail during the practice of sexual magic. Remember that desire is diabolic. The I is desire. The I is diabolic. Love cannot exist where there is desire because love and desire are incompatible. It is necessary to know that desire produces deception. Whoever desires, believes himself to be in love, feels himself to be in love, could swear he is in love. That is the illusion of desire. How many times have we seen couples who claim they adore each other? After marriage, the house of cards falls, and the sad reality remains. Those who believe they were in love hate each other deep down, and once desire is satisfied, failure is inevitable. Then we only hear complaints and regrets, reproaches and tears. Where was the love? What happened to love? It is impossible to love when there is desire. Only those who have incarnated their soul truly know how to love. The I does not know how to love. Only the soul knows how to love. Love has its own atmosphere, its flavor, its happiness. It is only known to the one who has killed animal desire. Only the one who has incarnated his soul knows and experiences it. Love is nothing like that which people call love. What people believe love to be is only a deceptive desire. Desire is a deceptive substance that combines marvelously in the mind and heart to make us firmly believe that something we feel, which is not love, is love. Only the horrible reality that presents itself after the consummation of the act, and the satisfaction of desire, shows us clearly that we were the victims of a deception. We believed we were in love, and we actually were not. The human being does not yet know that which is called love. Actually, only the soul knows and is able to love. Man still has not incarnated his soul. Man still does not know what it is to love. Satan does not know what love is. The only thing the human being currently has incarnated is Satan, the I. The human being does not know how to love. Love can only exist from heart to heart, from soul to soul. Whoever has not incarnated his soul does not know how to love. Satan cannot love, and this is what the human being has incarnated. The perfect matrimony is the union of two beings, one who loves more, and the other who loves better. Love is the best religion the human being can profess. Desire is a substance that breaks down into many substances. These substances of desire manage to deceive the mind and the heart. The one who despairs because his wife has left him for another man was not actually in love. True love demands nothing, asks nothing, desires nothing, thinks nothing, only wants one thing, the happiness of the beloved. That is all. The man who loses the one he loves only says, "I am happy you found your happiness. If you found it with another man, I'm glad you found it." Desire is another thing. The passionate man who has lost the woman he loved, because she left him for another, can even go so far as to kill, and to kill himself too. He falls into the most horrible desperation. He has lost the instrument of his pleasure. That is all. Actually, true love is only known by those who have incarnated their soul. Humanity still does not know that which is called love. Really, love is like an innocent child. It is like the swan of white plumage. Love is like the first games of childhood. Love does not know anything because it is innocent. When we dissolve that horrible phantom that continues after death, the I, that which is called love, is born within us. When we reach that state, we recover our lost innocence. Currently, the human being has only incarnated an embryo of the soul. At times, it emits some sparks of love. The mother who adores her child is a very good example of that which is called love. The embryo of the soul can be strengthened with the blessed flame of love. Sometimes, man and woman feel the radiations of love that flow from the embryo of the soul, but immediately suffocate them with the violent and terrible passions Satan gives to man and woman alike. If we cultivate those divine vibrations of love, we can then fortify and strengthen the embryo of the soul, so that later we may intensely live that which we call love. Love strengthens the embryo of the soul. When the embryo grows stronger, we achieve the incarnation of the soul. Rare are those human beings who manage to feel the divine loving vibrations that radiate from the embryo of the soul. What humanity normally feels are the forces of desire. Desire also sings, and turns into ballads and infinite endearments. Desire is the most deceptive poison that exists in the entire cosmos. Anyone who is a victim of the great deceiver would swear he is in love. Men and women, I invite you to love. Follow the footprints of those, few in the world, who have known how to love. Gods and goddesses love each other within the nuptial enchantment of paradise. Blessed are the beings who truly love each other. Only love can convert us into gods. Endocrinology. Although it may seem incredible, it is certain and absolutely true that science is closer to transmutation and sex yoga than many students of yoga. Endocrinology is bound to produce a true creative revolution. Scientists already know that the sexual glands are not sealed capsules. They absorb and secrete hormones. Hormones of secretion are called conservators because they perpetuate the species. The endocrine hormones are called vitalizing because they vitalize the human organism. The process of hormonal incretion is transmutation, the transformation of one type of energy matter into another type of energy matter. Mithana, sexual magic, is intensified sexual transmutation. The Gnostic absorbs, transmutes, and sublimates the totality of the sexual energy matter. The rich and abundant sexual hormones inundate the circulatory system of the blood and reach the different glands of internal secretion, stimulating and inciting them to work intensely. Thus, with intensified sexual transmutation, the endocrine glands are superstimulated, producing, as is natural, a greater number of hormones, which animate and modify the entire liquid nervous system. Already, science recognizes sexual transmutation in every individual of normal sexuality. Now it is only a question of advancing a little further to recognize the intensified sexual transmutation of supersexual individuals. Whoever biologically studies the 32 major signs of the Buddha will reach the conclusion that the secondary sexual characteristics of the Buddha were really those of a superman. These secondary sexual characteristics of the Buddha point to, a very intense sexual transmutation. There can be no doubt that the Buddha practiced Mithana, sex yoga, sexual magic, the Arcanum Zeta F. Buddha taught white tantrism, sexual magic. However, he gave that teaching to his disciples secretly. Zen and Chan Buddhism teach Mithana, and couples practice this sex yoga. Secondary sexual characteristics. There are primary sexual characteristics and secondary characteristics. The primary ones are related to the sexual functions of the creative organs, and the secondary ones to the distribution of fats, formation of muscle, hair, speech, body shape, etc. Obviously, the shape of a woman's body is different from a man's, and vice versa. It is also very true that any damage to the sexual organs modifies the human organism. The secondary sexual characteristics of a eunuch are those of a degenerate. The secondary sexual characteristics of an individual of intermediate sex, or a sodomite, reveal an invert, an infrasexual. What could we deduce from an effeminate man? What about a masculine woman? What kind of primary characteristics would correspond to people with secondary sexual characteristics opposite to those of their own sex? There is no doubt that infrasexuality exists in such people. Sexual yoga, Maithana, the arcanum A Zeta F, sexual magic, is a type of supersexual functionalism that, in fact, modifies the secondary sexual characteristics, producing a new type of man, a superman. It is absurd to suppose that the superman can result from beliefs, theories, sectarianisms, fanaticism, schools, etc. Really, the superman does not come from what one believes or stops believing, from the school one belongs to or stops belonging to. The secondary sexual characteristics are only modified by changing the primary characteristics. With sex yoga, with Maithana, the authentic yogi initiates are able to modify the secondary sexual characteristics in a positive, transcendental, divine way. Psychology and endocrinology. Psychology appeared to be at a standstill. Fortunately, the science of endocrinology appeared. Psychology took on a new life. There have already been various attempts to study the lives of the great men based on their biological types. It is said, for example, that the decline of Napoleon coincided with the declining process of his pituitary gland. Psychological characteristics are determined by the endocrine glands and the primary sexual characteristics. Biopsychological type is definitive and can no longer be denied. It is dependent on the primary sexual characteristics. Really, biopsychological type belongs to the secondary sexual characteristics and is totally determined by the primary sexual characteristics. On this basis, we can affirm that if we want the biopsychological type being, we must work with the primary sexual characteristics. Only with sexual magic, Maithana, or sex yoga do we succeed in producing the biopsychological type of master, the Superman, the Mahatma. Infrasexuality. In this chapter, we have made statements that infrasexuals mortally hate. They really consider themselves to be supersexual, supertranscendent. Infrasexuals believe themselves to be more perfect than the third logos, and have no trouble affirming that sex is something gross, filthy, materialistic. Infrasexuals ignore that sex is the creative force of the Holy Spirit, without which they will never reach intimate self-realization. Unfortunately, they insult the third logos and his marvelous sexual force. For the infrasexual, the divine sexual force of the Holy Spirit is something sinful, gross, and material. Infrasexuals have the vain illusion of self-realization through lectures, philosophies, beliefs, respiratory exercises, the bellows system, etc. It is clear they will never transform their secondary sexual characteristics with these things, and the result is failure. Evolution and involution. Nowadays, many philosophical doctrines based on the dogma of evolution are spreading in both the Eastern and Western worlds. Evolution and involution are mechanical forces that simultaneously process themselves in all of nature. We do not deny the reality of these two forces, we explain them. Nobody can deny the creative and destructive, evolutive and involutive, generative and degenerative processes. What happens is the mechanical force of evolution is attributed with things that it does not have. Neither evolution nor involution can liberate anyone. The idea that, with evolution, everybody will achieve liberation, the goal, is a fantasy of deluded people. Jesus the Christ spoke clearly, and never promised salvation to all. The great master emphasizes the tremendous and terrible difficulty involved in the struggle to enter the sanctum regnum, the kingdom of magic and esotericism. For many are called, but few are chosen. Of 1,000 who seek me, one finds me. Of the 1,000 who find me, one follows me. Of the 1,000 who follow me, one is mine. Here, we are not dealing with a matter of believing or disbelieving, of considering oneself chosen, or of belonging to such and such a sect. This question of salvation is very serious. You have to work with the grain, with the sexual seed. Nothing comes from nothing. It is necessary to work with the grain. It requires an effort from the grain itself, a total revolution. Only from the sexual grain is the internal angel born. Only the internal angel is admitted into the kingdom of esotericism. Mithuna, sex yoga, sexual magic, is urgent. The forces of involution and evolution are simply mechanical forces, forces which liberate no one, which save no one. That's all. Many organisms are the result of involution, and many others of evolution. The indigenous and anthropophagus races are not evolving. They are really in involution. They are the degenerated products of powerful civilizations that preceded them in the course of history. All these tribes say they descend from gods, demigods, titans, etc. All these races conserve traditions that tell of the wonders of their glorious pasts. The lizard is a degenerated crocodile. The archaic ancestors of ants and bees were titans who existed before mankind. The current humanity is a degenerated product of preceding races, as the secondary sexual characteristics of the people attest. Manly women who fly airplanes and fight in war are infrasexuals, as are effeminate men who perm their hair and paint their nails in beauty salons. Those authors who assume that this is evolution, a return to divine hermaphroditism, etc., are mistaken. The authentic hermaphrodite is not of intermediate sex. The hermaphrodite of the submerged continent of Lemuria was complete, having both sexual organs totally established and developed. They were not infrasexuals, they were not of intermediate sex. Today it is only possible to find the divine hermaphrodite in the spirit and soul that is fused and perfect. The completely feminine soul and the completely masculine spirit are fused in initiation. An angel is a divine hermaphrodite. No angel is of intermediate sex. It is necessary to place ourselves upon the path of the revolution of consciousness. This path moves away from the laws of evolution and involution. Indeed, it is the straight, narrow, and difficult path of which the great Kabir Jesus spoke to us. Yogic exercises. We do not condemn yogic exercises. They are very useful and contribute to interior development. Nevertheless, all yoga that does not teach the Mithuna and the white tantric sadhanas is incomplete. The great yogis of the East and West attained self-realization with sex yoga. The New Age yogis, the Agni yogis, will have to make a profound study of endocrinology and give public teachings about sex yoga. The tantric postures of the Kama Kulpa are very exaggerated, and many of them degenerate into black tantrism. We only recommend the tantric posture of this chapter.